plan?
One is awareness. Awareness is key because once the players, different, we've talked about vertical and horizontal coordination. Once these players are aware of their roles, I'm sure that we'll be able to make progress. In fact, he was talking about getting the rural community and all that. And that's why the law in itself has provisions for teaching climate change issues in primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. That's there in Section 26 of the Act. So the reason is for all hands to be on deck. Now, we have also talked about the governance, climate governance issues within the subnationals. If you check very well, you will now find that states like Gombe, Lagos, and all that, they're all taking their own local actions. And some have even come up with their climate change councils, just like you talked about Cross River. So if we coordinate these efforts, just like you said, we don't have to really rely, wholly. Yes, we need the climate finance. But you can also see that we are issuing green bond, the third tranche of our green bond. We issued the first one in 2017, the second in 2019. And from the money that we raised from those issuances, we were able to first specific areas, for instance, energy within the universities. So we can handle these things once we are aware that we are not going to rely on anybody. Where the person wants to return to 1796 years of George Washington, where they were practicing exclusive isolationism. That's the person's business. But right now, I want to say that if you go to countries like China, Germany, and all that, they have all moved on issues of transition. They're not waiting for anybody to tell them as a headmaster, this is what you have to do. The only disadvantage here is that you pollute and you do not want to be held accountable. That's the only thing. But for us, once we create this awareness, Section 27 of the law talks about, nature-based solutions. There are things we were doing in the communities in those days as we were growing up to protect our environment, stop local erosion, and all this. These are things we can continue to do. So the idea that we are going to go back to 1796 of George Washington is not going to be possible because nations have moved, ideas have moved. Recall, when he first came, he pulled out. Shortly after, the Paris Agreement was entered into in 2015, December. So he pulled out in early 2017. But other countries have moved in and provided, in fact, you need to know, for instance, what has happened in Germany, the energy mix is moving close to 60%, relying on renewables. The same thing with even Britain, that is also relying on North Sea oil. They have all moved. So as a nation, we have that responsibility to locate the things we are supposed to do, make sure we do them knowing that we are on our own. We are not relying on anybody because look at the disappointment. So look at the shock. But I don't expect the world to be too shocked by this because he's been threatening that he was going to do this, and he did it the first time. So with what the nations around the world have been able to do on the issue of climate change, some of them are oil producing, but they have gone 80%. Go to Sweden, go to Norway, you see what they have been able to do. So we also should be able to do that. But more importantly, is proper coordination of policies, proper execution of the laws, following the laws as they have been clearly, enacted. Anywhere where we have omissions, like you said, well, maybe there are one or two things that need to be. Those things can be strengthened, but let's follow the law. And I'm happy that Mr. President is exercising leadership in making sure that we do the right things. And the reason why we did the law that way, maybe I should explain it now, is because we realized from some of us who were commissioners in states and other places that unless the appointer brings in those he appointed, sometimes you see resistance, which is why I came up with the idea of peer, jealousy, where the equals sometimes resist one of them being on top of whatever that is happening. So with Mr. President being at the apex, sitting at the council, directing, you would just see changes. And of course, you must have noticed that with what he did in 2023, the movement in Dubai, actions he has taken, the evergreen issue, now that he was in Abu Dhabi and saying, come and invest in our green bond. You are going to witness so many things happening along that line. The other thing I want to say, because he was talking about energy, is that the Electricity Act 2023 is a game changer for the nation as far as renewable energy and all the rest of them are concerned. Why? That act makes it possible, and that's why the states have keyed in, for the states to come up with their own electricity laws, and that way you'll be able to set up, the kind of energy that you need to do irrigation, to do agriculture, without waiting for NEPA or PHCN or whatever we are calling it now. So that's law, combined with the provisions of the Climate Change Act. They have the potential to help us move in the right direction without waiting for anybody.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that we don't break this link. You did mention earlier